Hola mis queridos, ¿cómo estás, mi Alicia? Hello my kittens, how are you? My name is Allison, and today we are playing Murder, She Wrote Book 2, Murder in the Maples. And everyone, guess what? Today might be the day we actually finish Book 2. I am super excited. Before I get into the game, I do want to mention that Murder, She Wrote is actually based off a TV series of the same name, and the voice actors in the game are not the actual actors from the show, but they do try to make sure they sound a lot like the characters, which I think is a really good thing to do, because in all honesty, I would not have viewed Jessica Fletcher the same way. So the show and the video game, basically, is about a murder mystery author named Jessica Fletcher, and she has her own mysteries, not just in her writing, but in real life as well. She's kind of like the author version of Nancy Drew, basically. That's what I like to call her. Not the female Castle, but the author version of Nancy Drew. I really don't like when people say that she's the female Castle, because Jessica Fletcher is like the OG. Well, Nancy Drew is the OG, but anywho. Jessica Fletcher, she's a murder mystery author that basically follows Nancy Drew's steps. She ends up in a mystery almost everywhere she goes. She also helps out the police in her hometown, which is Cabot Cove, Maine, I believe. And I do want to mention that there are bloody scenes in almost every single book there is in this video game. When I say book, I actually do mean book. You'll see in a few minutes. And I also want to mention that because there's going to be blood, I'm going to do my best to censor that. There are also some pretty creepy things, interesting conversations that can actually damage your psyche. And in my perspective, I call that psychological damage, because that can actually affect the mind even at a young age, and it'll ruin not just how your mind works, but how you're raised as well. I can tell you a few things about that myself. I probably shouldn't admit this in public right now, but when I was really young, my parents divorced. Because of that, I developed a fear that I did not expect to see, that I did not expect to have. And I actually had to experience it during work a couple years back, and I gotta tell you, that scared the tar out of me, and I'm like, no, I'm putting in my 2-week notice. So, I did mention in a Graham Tales video a couple of examples, and I used TV shows for the examples, and I probably shouldn't have, because those are more like memory things rather than personality damage. Psychological damage normally affects not just your mind, but how you're raised and how you develop as a person. And when it's TV shows or a specific event that's not related to your personality, well then that is ingrained into your subconscious, and it implies into your personality of what you will be. I don't mean to be all psychological or as a therapist, but I just wanted to mention all that stuff, because you'd be surprised how bad this kind of stuff can hurt ya. Oh, one thing I do want to mention, because I know I've been talking quite a bit, if anything in this video does not look familiar, it is because you have not been keeping up. I suggest you check the links down in the description box below. There's the previous video as well as the playlist. I recommend the playlist because it will have every single video that I've done so far on book 2, as well as book 1. Well, book 1's not going to be in the playlist, but that's a separate playlist entirely. You can check my channel, and there will actually be a section for Murder, She Wrote playlists. And I'm so glad I did that. I actually had to take some stuff, change the multiple playlist name in order to do the Murder, She Wrote section. But it was worth it, because I really want to make sure that people know that Murder, She Wrote is not just one game, but it's also books. Alright, let's get into the game, shall we? And as I said, we are basically finishing the book today. Yes. So there actually are some things that are different about Murder, She Wrote, the video game, compared to other Hidden Objects games. There's timed and then there's relaxed. Timed, it is basically on the hidden objects. You have at least 20 minutes to get a hidden objects puzzle done. I think that's excluding the minigame that's inside the hidden puzzle, the hidden objects. And I gotta tell you, it is actually kind of fun. I actually did find out what happens when the timer hits 0. You are basically kicked out and you have to do the hidden objects puzzle all over again in order to move on to the game. That is a definitely interesting technique, definitely interesting way to make the game. We're going to stick with relaxed though, and it actually turns out it doesn't matter if you hit timed or relaxed in the same gameplay, it will not reset the book on you. Which I think is a really good thing, really nice thing that they did. Alright, so let's continue, shall we? And I actually like this bit as well. Do you want to continue your save game? Yes, no, cancel. Cancel is basically going back to this. menu here, or even the main menu. No, I would assume that when you reset the book, I have not tried that yet. Like I said, in almost every single Murder, She Wrote book, every single video of this game, I'm always learning something new. Alright, so let me give you a quick recap. I do this in every video so that you all are caught up with what's going on. I believe in the previous video we started with chapter 8 and then ended with chapter 12, which I think is a decent movement. So we discovered that Melanie was at Maple Hill, which was Gerald Morgan's wife, his affair, which is what we found out in the next chapter. Melanie confessed that she followed him. Chief Ashmont just kept accusing a lot of people, but in doing so, we found out that Melanie had an affair with him. We discovered that there was an envelope from Nature's Gifts Foods, which Melanie found in Gerald's possessions when he died. Yoicks. It says she had witnessed Gerald remove what looked like a wad of cash from it before dropping it on the way to his car. I don't know why he dropped it, because that's kind of, an important thing that he should have kept. So we ended up going to his former job, the last job he had when he was alive, which was with Nature's Gift Foods. And it turns out his boss admitted that she had paid Gerald the $500 to keep quiet about some unethical business tactics she had employed in the past. Again, Chief accused. Her handwriting didn't match the note that Gerald had, which is interesting because the note was basically a way of sabotaging himself, not just Maria, who owns the maple sugar house that he arrived at. She also denied giving Gerald the food dye, although they do use red food coloring in their maple candies. When I examined the window again, I noticed some green yarn fibers that I overlooked before. I was also able to determine that Joan's letter opener was not the tool that opened the window, and the bore that killed Gerald wouldn't have worked either. Back to square one. Which, in my opinion, isn't really back to square one. This is just like a step closer to figuring out what did open the window. We know what killed him. We still need to figure out the why and the who. We already know where. There's the 5 W's. Who, what, when, where, and why. We haven't figured out the who or the why. We're about to figure out the how. We know where he died, and we know when he died. Yeah. So we are heading to Nature's Gifts Foods to figure out what is going on.
Chief, Mrs. Fletcher, what brings you back here?
Do you use number 7 red dye to color any of the foods you produce in this plant?
Definitely not.
You sound quite certain about that.
I am. You see, number 7 red is never used as a food coloring because it's highly toxic.
I'd like to take another look around to confirm that.
Certainly.
I mean, I still like the sheriff, but chief. I keep getting him and the sheriff of Cabot Cove confused. I don't know why. There's a hint recharge. We are basically finding all the red food there is in this scene, which is pretty simple. Shouldn't be too hard to do. There's the missing letter. And I actually really like that you are given the... I actually really like that you're given a typewriter and have to find letters on the typewriter to achieve the goal. I see steam. Where would you be hiding from me? Oh, I did not see that.
So if the dye Gerald was carrying isn't used as a food coloring because it's toxic, that makes what he was planning to do to Maria's batch of sap all the more serious.
Yeah.
But it also seems to rule out Nature's Gift Foods as its source. Well, back to the station.
And back to square one.
Nuh-uh, not necessarily. Alright, Stratton Mountain Police Department. Joanne informed me that Nature's Gift Foods does not use number 7 red as a food coloring because it is highly toxic. Where then did the dye come from? We are about to find out.
It's going to take forever to find out what the source of that dye was.
I'm afraid so.
Hello, Mark. I'm here to collect Gerald's belongings.
Of course, Sally. I'll have someone bring the box to your car while you're filling out the yellow release forms.
Mrs. Morgan, I nearly forgot. A friend had this scarf of Gerald's, and I offered to return it to you.
Oh, thank you, Mrs. Fletcher. I hand-knit that scarf for Gerald last Christmas. I better fill out these forms and get back to the shop.
You hand-knit that scarf?
Hand-knit? Oh, dear.
What?
If Gerald didn't climb through the window at Maple Hill because he had a duplicate key, then he couldn't have been the one who left the green fibers behind on the windowsill.
Right?
So...
Let's have a look at the note Gerald received and those forms Sally just filled out.
Oh boy, here we go. And we're basically finding all the freaking yellow forms. Alright, let's find the letters first. Doink. And we're missing the O and the U. There's the O. Donut. I can tell that's a donut. Security camera. Boink. Skull and crossbones? Really? Trophy is easy to spot. Yeah. Make some coffee? Where's the coffee machine? Right there. Dun dun da 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 dun dun dun. Yum bum. Ba da da ruler. Measure the footprints. Shoe prints Sally just left are an exact match to the smallest set of prints found at the murder scene. Oh. Alright, now we can collect these. It's driving me nuts. Oh, you know what? Let's solve later. I want to save that for last. Where is the gosh dang apple? Yoink. Hey, there's the U. There's the boot. Smoke detector. Skull and crossbones. There it is. Now we're just looking for the compass, whistle, and television set. Where's the freaking television set? There it is. Wham, 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 wham. Oh, duh. Recharge. There's a recharge. Alright, here. Find the one identical pair of letters on the paper scraps. Now, this is kind of easy to detect. Wait, didn't we just go over this in the previous video? I'm having deja vu here. Anyway, what we gotta do here is pretty simple, and it's actually a little bit difficult if you don't really know. It's actually kind of difficult if you're like in a hurry and want to get out of here, but I'm trying to be as calm as I can here. Bum, bum, ba-dum, ba, bum, bum, bum. Bum, bum, bum. Sometimes it's actually pretty easy to spot, and sometimes it isn't. Alright, I'm actually having trouble with this. Oh, no, I'm not. Right there. Sure looks like the handwriting matches to me. So Sally must have written the note telling Gerald to sabotage Maple Hill.
There's only one logical explanation for why footprints exactly matching Sally's were found on the floor at the crime scene.
Plus, the fact that Sally's handwriting matched a note telling Gerald to meet that night at Maple Hill means we ought to pay her another visit.
Yep. Alright, so when Sally picked up Gerald's personal effects at the station, I was able to deliver Gerald's handmade scarf to her. Although the scarf was red, I put together Sally's penchant for knitting with the green yarn I found in the window frame at the sugar house, and realized she could have been the one who crawled through that window. Wouldn't you know, Sally's handwriting on the police forms matched that on the note that sent Gerald to Maria's sugar house, and her wet footprints on the floor of the police station matched the second set of prints we found at Maple Hill. It's time to put the rest of the pieces together. Right?
Hello, Sally.
I didn't expect to see you again so soon. Any news on who killed Gerald?
All the evidence points to you, Sally.
Jessica said at the time.
What?
It's true. You knew about the affair your husband was having with Melanie Young and laid a careful plan to exact your revenge.
You're saying I lured my husband to Maple Hill and killed him?
In so many words, yes. You paid a visit to Gerald at Nature's Gift Foods and scribbled the note promising a reward if Gerald would sabotage Maple Hill. Then you left the note and the syrup bottle containing dye, likely yarn dye from this shop, for him to find.
That night, Gerald went to the sugar house, but you'd gotten there first. You used a steel knitting needle to pry open the window and get inside to wait for him.
But a knitting needle is not a good stabbing weapon, so you used the tree boar instead. Not only did it make a better weapon, but it would cast suspicion on Maria as the killer.
This is ridiculous speculation. I have better things to do than listen to your silly stories. Now, if you'll excuse me.
Interesting tactic. Also, another reason why she wouldn't use a freaking knitting needle to stab him. It would clearly point to her. But then again, considering the situation, I'm not saying another word because it would spoil things. You boink. Think that's all of it? Nope, I'm missing the O. Da 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 dun dun da dun da dun. Da 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 dun dun. We're saving that for last. Yep, that is a start. You boink. We need a little more. You boink. Sneakers. Right there. Scissors. Dust broom. Dog bowl. And done. Oh, look at this. Knitting needles. Yeah, boink. It's kind of like pickup sticks. Yeah. Boink. Dun 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 dun. Yeah dun dun. Yeah dun dun. I'm a one gal guy. Da 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 dun 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 dun. What? This knitting needle is badly scratched and bent. I'm betting it's the one that made the marks we found on the sugar house windowsill. Yep. Alright. Is there any way I can find that letter O? Funny! Tape measure. CD spindle. T-shirt. Yeah, it changes. Box cutter. Swan. Chandelier. That's the ruler. Dang it. Arrange the yarn in the grid according to the rules on the sticky note. And the sticky note, I imagine it's going to be a little hard to read for you all, so let me tell you what it says. 3 moves, 3 squares, 4 colors, each 0 loose threads. So basically, 4 colors each for each box, and it has to be 3 squares. I wonder how we're going to do that. It's actually pretty simple. Boink. Yeah, boink. Yeah, boink. Well, simple enough if you think outside of the box. But I'm dead. Chief, those look like bloodstains. Sally must have been hanging on to this sweater until she had the opportunity to get rid of it. Well, duh. Alright. Oh, there's a calculator.
When we compare the fibers from that sweater we just found to the fibers left on the windowsill at the crime scene,
They'll match. I'll save you the trouble.
Sally, why would you want to kill Gerald?
Because when I found out he was cheating on me with Melanie, I was furious.
how did you find out?
One evening, I was alone. Gerald was working late again, or so he said, so I decided to go out for coffee. At one point, I went to use the powder room, and I passed Melanie's office. The door was slightly ajar, and I saw the two of them together.
You didn't confront them?
I almost did, but then I thought of a better plan. One that would allow me to get even with Gerald. I set him up to break into Maple Hill and photograph him in the act of tampering with Maria's equipment.
To get him fired from his new job?
But when he arrived, I couldn't help but confront him about his affair. And he laughed at me. He turned to go and I lost it. I grabbed the maple boar and I rammed it in his back.
Sally, I'm placing you under arrest for the murder of your husband. And this time, I'm not jumping to any conclusions. Right, Mrs. Fletcher?
Quite correct.
Right, Chief.
Jess, as a thank you, I'll treat you to the most decadent coffee beverage on the menu.
That's very kind, Maria, but I think I'd be happiest with a simple cup of tea.
Here, here.
Suit yourself. A double-shot mocha latte for me.
Have you made any decisions about what you're going to do now?
Well, this year's batch of maple sap has been ruined. After having a dead body soaking in it, I certainly can't use it to make syrup.
I should say not.
You'd be surprised.
But I'm optimistic. My insurance should cover the loss, and Joanne Marshall and I have started new negotiations.
Really?
Yep, Nature's Gift Foods has a new offer on the table, allowing me to operate Maple Hill as an independent subsidiary.
That sounds like it will benefit both of you very well. To sweet success.
Hear, hear.
Yeah! Typewriter keys found 81 of 84. Go figure. Hints used 7. Boo freaking yeah. Puzzle skipped 0 of 10. Yes! Completion time. Wait, 26 minutes? Really? I find that improbable. That needs to be checked. That can't be right. That cannot be right. Yeah, this game, something has to be wrong with this game because I know I did not play a total of 26 minutes on this. Alright, up next is A Garden to Die For. I am not going to start that in this video. Really? You had to put blood on the flower. Gosh dang it, now I'm thinking of Alice in Wonderland. So, the reason why I said you'd be surprised on selling maple syrup with blood in it, I'm not one of them. And I'm telling you, it can be somewhat of a fetish. But there are people who are, I shouldn't say cannibals, but there are such thing as cannibals. There are such thing as cannibals in this world. And in fact, other worlds, probably. Other universes, other dimensions. I'm not going to go into universes and dimensions, seriously. That's another time, another place. But there are certain people who are willing to go to the limits of putting human blood in their food. So I wouldn't be surprised if some would like to put blood in maple syrup. I'm actually kind of wondering what it would taste like. I'm not saying I want to do it, but it definitely sounds interesting. I don't want to go to that limit, but I kind of want to try it. I sound sadistic saying that, but me and my curious mind, geez, one day it's going to get me killed. Either that or it's going to get me in serious trouble. Well, on that note, I should probably go ahead and head out. Oh man, I am peaking so much in my audio. I hope you all enjoyed this video as much as I did. Seriously, that was crazy. I love you all, kittens and viewers, so much. I will talk to you all in the next video, which will be Nancy Drew, the Silent Spy. Oi. And on that note,
I hope you all enjoyed this video, and if so, smash that like button like a kitten would. And if you're just now tuning into this channel, go ahead and click that ugly red subscribe button with that beautiful gray, as well as the bell icon right next to it. That will notify you of all the videos that I do, which are on Tuesdays, Thursdays, Sundays, and rarely Fridays. I hope you all have a great morning, afternoon, evening, or night, wherever you are in the world. I am Sweet Rascally Rabbit, saying goodbye. Stay awesome and stay on YouTube!
I really want to see what the third book is like. Oh, should I just go ahead and create a third profile?